Welcome back to Ivy's Folktales. In the beautiful city, Anambra, lived a young girl named Adaizi. Known for her beauty, kindness, and strength, Adaizi was admired by all who knew her. But from the moment she was born, an ancient prophecy cast a shadow over her life. Before Adaizi's birth, her mother, Ifeoma, had been childless for many years. Desperate to have a child, she sought the help of the sacred river near the village, a place feared and revered by all who lived there. One night, under the light of a full moon, Ifeoma went to the river alone. She knelt by the water's edge, her voice trembling with hope and desperation, as she begged the spirits for a child. Water Mother, echoing ethereal voice, "Your heart is true. I will grant you a child, but know this. Your child will be a river child, bound by the power of the water. She will be different from others, and her destiny will be tied to the spirits above all. She must never get married." Narrator. Ifeoma, overwhelmed with gratitude, but filled with fear, too promised to care for the child and honor the spirits. The Water Mother smiled and touched Ifeoma's belly. "Water Mother, go now, and in time you will bear a daughter. But remember, she is a gift of the river, and her life is not her own." Narrator. True to the Water Mother's words, Ifeoma soon became pregnant, and months later, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, whom she named Adaize. From the moment Adaize was born, it was clear she was special. Her eyes sparkled like the river under the moonlight, and she possessed an otherworldly grace. But with Adaize's birth came a prophecy foretold by the village elders. They warned that Adaize was not meant to marry, and if she ever did, her union would bring unimaginable disaster. This prophecy, coupled with her mysterious origins, set her apart from the other children in the village. As Adaize grew, it became clear that she was indeed different. She had a deep connection to the river and often spent hours by its banks, feeling at peace. The river was her sanctuary, a place where she felt truly herself. She would sit by the water's edge, listening to the gentle flow and watching the fish swim gracefully in the clear depths. But there was one thing that truly set her apart. Adaize could not eat or touch fish. The creatures of the river were sacred to her, a part of herself that she could never harm. The villagers noticed this and whispered among themselves, calling her the River Child. They respected her strange aversion, but it added to the mystery that surrounded her. Adaize accepted this part of herself, knowing it was tied to the deeper forces that shaped her life. However, another strange and disturbing pattern began to emerge as Adaize grew older. Every man who had ever been intimate with Adaize, who had touched her in the way a husband touches a wife, had died mysteriously. Some died in their sleep, their faces twisted in terror, while others were found lifeless by the river, as if the water itself had claimed them. The villagers spoke of it in hushed tones, fearing that Adaize was cursed, a bringer of death to any man who loved her. As Adaize blossomed into adulthood, her beauty and grace attracted many suitors. However, her suitors faced a dark fate. Every man who became intimate with Adaize met a mysterious and untimely death. Whispers of the curse spread like wildfire, and the village became a place of fear and suspicion. One of Adaize's suitors, Obina, was the son of a wealthy family in the village. He had been deeply enamored with Adaize, despite the rumors. After his sudden and unexplained death, his family was devastated. They did not believe the stories of a curse. They believed someone was responsible, and they directed their anger at Adaize. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the village, Obina's family, led by his furious older brother Namdi, stormed into Adizi's home. The air was thick with tension as they demanded justice for their lost son. Namdi, angrily, "You witch! You took our brother from us! How many more men will die because of you?" Adizi, taken aback by the accusation, trembled as she faced Namdi's rage. She had always feared the curse that seemed to follow her, but never had she been directly confronted by the families of the men who had died. Ifeoma, pleadingly, "Please, Namdi, you must believe us. Adai's never wanted this. She's as much a victim as those who have died." But Namdi was not swayed. He pushed past Ifeoma and grabbed Adaizi by the arm, dragging her out of the house and into the village square. A crowd began to gather, drawn by the commotion. The villagers, already fearful of Adaizi, watched in silence, unsure of what would happen next. Nandi, shouting to the crowd, "This woman is a curse upon our village. How many more must die before we put an end to this?" The crowd murmured in agreement, their fear of Adaizi fueling their anger. But just as the tension reached its peak, a voice rang out through the square. Chima, commanding, "Enough!" Chima, the only son of the king, stepped forward, his presence commanding and resolute. He had heard of the confrontation and had come to protect the woman he loved. Chima, firmly, "Adaizi is not to blame for these deaths. This curse, if it even exists, was placed upon her by forces beyond our understanding. I will not allow anyone to harm her." Namdi, though angered by Chima's interference, knew better than to defy the king's son. He released Adaizi, but his eyes burned with resentment. Namdi, coldly, "This isn't over, Chima. The blood of my brother is on her hands, and I will see justice done." As the crowd slowly dispersed, Chima gently took Adaizi into his arms, comforting her as she trembled from the ordeal. Adaiza, though relieved by Chima's protection, felt the weight of the curse more heavily than ever. Adaizi, whispering, "Chima, how can we ever be together with this curse hanging over us? I fear that if you stay with me, you too will meet a terrible fate." Chima, reassuringly, "I don't believe in curses, Adaizi. I believe in us." As days go by, Adaizi love grew stronger for Chima. Chima was everything Adaizi had ever dreamed of in a partner. He was brave, compassionate, and devoted to her. Despite the warnings of the prophecy, their love for each other grew stronger with each passing day. Chima, though aware of the prophecy, believed that love could conquer anything, even fate. He reassured Adaizi, telling her that the prophecy was just an old tale meant to scare people, and that their love was stronger than any curse. Adaizi wanted to believe him. She wanted to live a life filled with love and happiness, just like everyone else. Against the advice of the elders, and despite the unease that settled over the village, Adaizi and Chima decided to get married. The villagers, though fearful, could not deny the love they saw between the two, and reluctantly began preparations for the wedding. But a sense of dread hung in the air, as if the very earth was holding its breath. Chima's determination was not shattered by his father, the king. When the king learned of his son's intentions to marry Adaizi, he was furious. The king, a proud and wise ruler, had heard of the strange deaths that surrounded Adaizi and the prophecy that foretold disaster if she ever married. He forbade Chima from pursuing the relationship, warning him that to marry Adaizi would bring ruin to their kingdom. King, sternly, "Chima, you are the heir to this throne. You will not bring this curse upon our people. This girl is dangerous. She brings death to any man who touches her. You must end this foolishness now." Chima, defiantly, "Father, I love her. I cannot abandon her because of fear. I do not believe in this curse. I believe in our love." But the king's words only strengthened Chima's resolve. He loved Adizi with all his heart and was willing to risk everything for her. However, he knew that to truly be with her, he would have to do more than just defy his father. He would have to break the curse that bound her, a curse that had claimed so many lives and threatened to claim his as well. On the day of the wedding, the village was beautifully decorated. The sun shone brightly, and the air was filled with the scent of fresh flowers. The villagers gathered, dressed in their finest clothes, and watched as Adaize, adorned in a stunning traditional gown, made her way to the ceremony. However, as she stood before the altar, holding Chima's hand, something inside her began to unravel. It was as if the prophecy was a seed that had lain dormant in her heart. And now, on this most important day, it had begun to take root. Her vision blurred, and her thoughts became a tangled web of fear and confusion. Suddenly, just as she was about to say her vows, Adizi let out a piercing scream. The crowd gasped in shock as she pulled away from Chima, her eyes wild with terror. She clutched her head as if in pain, her body trembling uncontrollably. "It's happening!" one of the elders cried. "The prophecy is coming true!" Panic spread through the crowd as Adizi began to mutter incoherently, her once clear eyes now filled with madness. She stumbled away from the altar, tearing off her gown, her mind lost in a whirlwind of confusion and despair. The villagers, who had hoped the prophecy was nothing more than a myth, now realized its terrible truth. Chima tried to reach her, to hold her, but she pushed him away, her strength fueled by the madness that had overtaken her. "Stay away!" she screamed. "I am cursed! I am cursed!" The elders knew that nothing could be done to reverse the prophecy. They had warned Adaize, but love had blinded her to the truth. Now all they could do was watch as the woman they had known and loved lost herself to the curse that had been foretold. Adaize ran from the village, her screams echoing through the forest as she disappeared into the darkness. Chima, heartbroken and helpless, fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. The villagers, filled with sorrow and fear, knew that their lives would never be the same. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, but Adaize was never seen again. Some say she wandered the forest, lost in her madness, while others believed that the spirits had taken her back to the river from which she had come. The village, once vibrant and full of life, became a place of quiet mourning, a constant reminder of the power of fate and the dangers of defying it. Chima never recovered from the loss. He spent the rest of his days visiting the spot where he had last seen Adaize, hoping that one day she might return to him.